On that note, you were talking about digital forensics, offensive security, and just the whole security. I mean, talk to me a little bit about how you see security operations changing and evolving, especially, since you got into this business.
Yeah, I think probably one of the biggest changes I've seen is things have moved to the cloud. That just makes things very different than when we lived in the on-prem world. All of a sudden, your perimeter is no longer just your own. It's out there. And good security principles still apply, but sometimes it's hard to keep up with those changes. And so some of the things that have happened as a result is that because folks don't run their own on-prem mail servers by and large anymore, those things are, the front door is internet accessible in a lot of cases. And so that creates some interesting things. It becomes a little more difficult when you're, for example, analyzing a phishing email to be able to go back through and understand where it truly originated from. And a lot of times those big hosting companies that have their cloud stuff, they're not real keen on sharing log files with you. So it's, particularly if you just received an email that purports to be from somewhere. So it's made it tricky. I think also just the skills of the attackers, particularly on social engineering campaigns, has continued to get better. So that's another change that, it's no longer as easy to spot a phishing email sometimes as it once was. You combine those things together, and now we have business email compromise situations a lot. That's something that's radically different than in the past. But also, as things have moved from on-prem to services that are in the cloud, a lot of SaaS type solutions, you have less access or less direct access to your data than when it was all on-prem. So to sort of help customers out, they've created a lot of APIs, and that creates yet another thing that's sometimes hard to secure. So you can put all the front-end security on your web app you want. If the API is accessible elsewhere, people can just sidestep right around the security that you've built in to make it challenging. And it's, as bandwidths have increased and so forth, you see volumetric attacks. So, for example, distributed denial of service attack stuff, just the size of the volume of the traffic, if you will, has gotten really ginormous. So you really have to work even harder to mitigate those things than perhaps in the past. And I'm probably missing a lot of things, but those are just a few things off the top of my head that come to mind that are interesting challenges now that have changed in recent years. And then I think we're very much in the very beginning of AI and generative AI and understanding all the ramifications of that, both for the good and for the bad, because certainly it's a powerful tool that can be used for different purposes.
Awesome. I totally agree too, as we're seeing this whole morphing of the whole security industry. What are some of the biggest threats that you're seeing, especially when you're talking about teams like this that are trying to block from everything and anything out there?
I think some of the interesting changes in the threats are sometimes you have, really people doing bad stuff as a service. So, for example, those dark marketplaces that, sometimes they live on the dark web, sometimes they're through a platform like Telegram that supports encrypted email communications. Those sort of things make it interesting because sometimes the group that's really trying to hurt you isn't necessarily the group behind the platforms and the applications and the services that are being used. You have a lot of initial access brokers now, for example. They might do the initial exploit, get a foothold in the network. They kind of stop there and they just sell off the access to the highest bidder. And if there's a threat actor group out there that doesn't like your organization or entity or whatever it might be, they don't have to figure out how to compromise you. It's already there for the taking. They just essentially buy it like any other good or service. And so these are new things that we're seeing in the threat landscape. And speaking of AI, now they're using those things in conjunction with social engineering. So we're seeing deep fakes now and those sort of things as being real threats that are sort of, I still feel like we're a bit in the early stages of those things, but you definitely have, heard of those things and see them coming. And even just simple things like people replacing QR codes with their own QR code. It's not very hard to print out your own code and on a printer label and put it on something else. So seeing a lot of interesting vectors, and then also you're seeing things change with regards to threat actors. For example, Microsoft Office has finally disabled macros by default within the suite. So then the threat actors are pivoting to other things. So they're experimenting even with different file types, OneNotes, even seeing things where they're trying to return to PDFs a little bit. You're seeing a lot of multi-stage things, and you're seeing, really a lot of, ISO files that they hope will auto mount on an operating system and execute code. And then you're seeing other actions that threat actors will take to try to evade detection. So they will, for example, send in a compressed file with a password in the email. So it's harder for your solutions to scan because they can't interpret what the password might be to actually analyze what that attachment is.